The superstar was visibly irate after his son's massive late-game error against Dallas. LA dropped the game 134 to 128, yet the real shocker came later. The king cornered his son in the tunnel, and those words are currently trending everywhere. Well, here is the scoop, the stakes, that disastrous pass, and the heated confrontation that followed. April 5th, 2026. Dallas. The 50-28 Lakers entered the arena, sitting third in the Western Conference standings, hunting for a top 4 seed to clinch home court advantage for the upcoming playoff run. The Mavericks were a lowly 25-53, simply playing out a dead season. By all accounts, this was a contest the Lakers were locked in to win. Nominally. Nothing crazy should have happened, but the Lakers were missing several key contributors. Luka Doncic was shut down for the year with a left hamstring injury. Austin Reeves sat out due to a strained left oblique. Marcus Smart was sidelined with a right ankle issue. The bench was absolutely gutted. The roster was thin, forcing a committee approach at point guard that thrust Bronny into some high-stakes minutes. This wasn't blowout time. LA desperately needed this win against a basement team and could not afford sloppy play. LeBron played like a machine, logging over 38 minutes of floor time. He finished with 30 points on 12 for 22 shooting efficiency. He grabbed 9 boards and dished 15 assists despite 4 total giveaways. He was the primary facilitator, the scorer, and the closer all at once. The Lakers dominated the glass with 58 rebounds and 36 assists. Dallas only had 43 boards, but protected the ball, losing it 7 times to LA's 12. That turnover gap was a major headache throughout the entire evening, and one specific blunder became the defining image of the night. The box score by quarter tells the tale of a squad that fought but failed. The Mavs came out firing, taking a 41-30 lead after 1. LA responded well, cutting the deficit to 6 by the halftime intermission. LeBron hammered home a Luke Kennard lob to pull within 272-70. You could feel it. Momentum swung back and forth until the final 5 minutes of the third quarter. Trailing 82-90, the Lakers were down 8 but still in the fight. That is a manageable deficit, but you cannot afford any mental lapses. Definitely. Bronny had the basketball near the arc, orchestrating the half-court set. LeBron was establishing deep position on the right block, bullying his defender and demanding the rock. The lane was wide open. The play required a quick bounce pass to avoid the perimeter defenders. Bronny opted for a soft chest pass instead. A Dallas defender anticipated the play and tipped the ball away. Possession dead. The Lakers squandered an opportunity they required. LeBron pivoted toward his kid hands, gesturing wildly to illustrate the error. He was schooling him on the mechanics low snappy and strictly a bounce pass. The live NBC feed caught every second of the tutorial. Mike Tirico broke down the interaction as it unfolded, noting LeBron's demand for a better delivery, painting the picture of a veteran clinic mixed with a heavy dose of family dramas. The lecture was brief before LeBron disappeared into the back. No whistles were blown and the refs stayed out of it. But that walk down the corridor was what truly set the internet on fire. That was the breaking point that ignited a debate brewing for 2 straight seasons. Bronny hit the showers with 5 points on 2 for 3 shooting, adding 1 assist and 3 fouls in less than 9 minutes of action. Dallas walked away with the 134-128 win. Rookie sensation Cooper Flagg carried the Mavericks with 45 points, dragging his squad past a contender with a legendary showing. Still, everyone was obsessed with one bad pass and the ensuing family fallout. To get the full picture of this chaos, we have to revisit the very beginning of the saga. Back to draft night and the phone call that broke the market. It was a power move that flipped the entire league upside down. The selection, the contract, and the massive public outcry. Bronny's Laker debut isn't a story about talent, it is a story about leverage. This narrative was written years before he even entered the draft pool. It effectively bent the 2024 draft to the will of one unranked prospect. Wow, so that is how we are starting the show. Going straight for the juggernaut topic, I am here for it. I absolutely love it. That was LeBron on the Shop the Game pod with JJ Redick way before the coaching gig, laughing off the first question about his son's professional. Path-masking just how carefully the script had been written, because by the time draft day arrived, the trap was already set. Back in 2022, LeBron declared he would follow his son anywhere, essentially telling the league that drafting the kid meant signing the king. That threat alone warped the market, but they did not stop there. Rich Paul, the Clutch Sports mastermind, reportedly warned teams not to touch the kid, making it clear that Bronny would rather play in Australia than suit up for them. This was not some locker room myth. Former Warriors boss Bob Myers confirmed the strategy live on ESPN. Front offices had to decide if the package deal was worth the headache. Most of them decided it was not. As a result, Bronny slipped to the Lakers at pick 55. He ended up signing a 4-year, $7.9 million deal. LeBron then inked a 2-year extension. This historic father-son pairing was finally official. Watching your own child start their journey toward a lifelong goal is truly special. Bronny has focused on this his entire life. We frequently asked what his endgame was. His ultimate goal was reaching the league. LeBron saw a dream. The stats disagreed. At USC, Bronny averaged 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 2.1 assists over 25 games. His season was derailed by cardiac arrest. Experts mostly predicted he would go unselected. The common narrative suggested LA picked him just for LeBron. The backlash started before the first tip-off. During the Summer League, teammates resented the lopsided spotlight he received, while shooting 22.6%. One player said quite bluntly, "I felt sidelined and ignored because the team prioritized Bronny's performance over ours. He was treated differently than everyone else, which completely destroyed our locker room chemistry. These guys were fighting for their careers, relying on those games for their futures. Yet they felt the game was rigged." Jeannie Buss dismissed these claims as jealousy, yet she had her own private frustrations. She reportedly resented LeBron's lack of thanks, seeing the pick as a major concession, and felt her gesture went unappreciated. She felt Clutch Sports held too much power, essentially letting the agency run the team. "I personally thought things were fine. Others might view it quite differently though. There are always two sides to this. Like I have said before, I have always tried representing this franchise with pride." LeBron eventually ignored these reports. Buss requested to be left alone. The real issue wasn't actually about gratitude. It was about the team's lost credibility and wasted draft picks. Plus, the team vibes tanked well before that first exhibition tip. Those backing the decision voiced their own arguments. ESPN big names Adrian Wojnarowski and Stephen A. Smith noted family ties exist everywhere in the league, from owners to front offices and players. They maintained that using a second-round pick on him hardly damaged the team framework. His defensive capabilities, they claimed, were actually the real deal. Ultimately, it was his shot to either seize or squander. For his part, LeBron mentioned at the scouting event how much he admired his son's grounded perspective. That desire to model his game after specialists like Derek White. Looking up to Drew Holiday and Marcus Smart instead of chasing superstar dreams. Seeing him name guys like Derek White, Drew Holiday, and a couple others. Marcus Smart and Davion Mitchell. These are the gritty types championship contenders absolutely crave. Any group hungry for a win every single night. These are the specific pieces you need to compete. That level of realism was definitely there. However, the massive chasm between knowing your role and actually performing in the pros remained the hurdle. And that reality hit hard and loud the second the regular season tipped off. Year 2, the stat lines, emotional moments, and the constant G League back and forth. Bronny James walked into the 2025-26 season shouldering every bit of that draft day drama. The favoritism talk, those rocky summer league outings. The shadow of his father's greatness, he tried to silence it all with his play. The front office committed to a slow burn growth strategy utilizing the developmental league with clear intent. Give him taste of pro minutes when appropriate while refining his skills one repetition at a time. JJ Redick, now in his second season leading the bench, had openly backed this strategy and stood by it completely. But the start of the year quickly exposed the sheer magnitude of the problem. The distance between Bronny's current skill set and the grueling demands of a rotation spot. Stephen A. Smith broke down the statistics on air, his tone suggesting he hated even having to do it. Those opening numbers were honestly painful to look at, a consequence of thrusting him into the fire. Primetime national broadcasts and high-pressure spots before his mind or body were truly prepared. During one rough patch, he missed all 8 shots and a half against Philadelphia. Redick addressed the media afterward, admitting he likely set the kid up for failure with a last-minute flight. A massive game in Philly under the national spotlight. Everything weighed heavy on the 21-year-old just trying to find his way. Redick didn't sugarcoat the performance, but stayed optimistic. Sure, he struggled that night, but his overall play has been solid. In the scrimmages and down in the G League, Redick never wavered in his support all year. He kept pointing to the minor league production and the long-term growth curve, focusing on how the journey looks over several months rather than one bad box score. Truth be told, those G League stats told a completely different story. Through roughly 6 G League games during the 2025-26 season, Bronny put up roughly 9.5 points and 3.8 boards, with nearly 5 dimes in 30-plus minutes, shooting 35.6% with few defensive stats. His playmaking efficiency showed major growth compared to his earlier G League run. The shots were flying and the nerves were finally settling. Yet the defining flashpoint of the early season, the moment that bared the talent gap most ruthlessly, occurred on November 18, 2025 in Milwaukee during a Lakers blowout. Bronny had just earned his second start as a pro. Early in the first, he was gift-wrapped 2 wide-open shots from deep. High-quality looks created by Luka Doncic's elite court vision. Both times the ball hit Bronny's hands. He hesitated and kicked it back out. He refused to shoot. Doncic looked disgusted, throwing his hands up in frustration after the second pass. You could feel the bench's disappointment. The staff felt it too, and Redick had seen enough. He has seen plenty of action, 6 words caught on the live mic. That clip went nuclear on social media immediately. It sparked a nationwide debate on coaching and player development, and if LeBron's son actually deserved an NBA roster spot. Redick benched him after 4 minutes and kept him there until halftime. In the end, Bronny played 10 minutes total and only took 2 shots. Stephen A. Smith watched the tape and doubled down on his initial stance. Smith insisted he wasn't being cruel. He claimed he was actually rooting for him. His core argument was that the public exposure itself was doing the damage, and playing him on national TV wasn't helping him grow. It was something else entirely. And the person who needed to stop it was the man who orchestrated it. That man was LeBron, and LeBron had a very specific rebuttal to that logic. The LeBron standard, a public facade versus a private agenda. LeBron has walked a very careful line when discussing Bronny this year. Every time he was grilled about minutes or performance, he gave a calculated, supportive, and hands-off response. The posture was steady, but that April 5th tunnel clash showed that hands-off was only for show. What he actually did on the court when the game was on the line was different. How rewarding has it been to see his actual physical growth? Witnessing his growth, man, it's been incredible to watch firsthand. He is still a kid, just turned 21 recently, so he is still learning and getting better every day. The language is guarded, still young, constant growth through every single drill. This isn't a parent questioning his choices. These are the proclamations of a man who's fully committed, dedicated to the grind, and following the blueprint to the letter. While LeBron's public narrative focused on positive support, the private reality on the hardwood was far more demanding. The superstar made it crystal clear in previous sit-downs that he expected Bronny to meet the exact same high-level benchmarks as every fellow player, delivering raw feedback and coaching without sugarcoating a thing. Sparing his son's emotions wasn't the goal. He guided his evolution using strict discipline, emphasizing accountability and constant adjustments. That specific play on April 5th, followed by that heated exchange back in the locker room area, showed those rigid expectations in action during a high-stakes matchup. In late December 2025, James insisted he never meddled with the coaching staff for either of his sons, claiming he stays off the line to let them lead without any interference. That remained his consistent stance before the media. He applied this rule to prep school mentors, the university team at USC, and even to the lineup choices made by JJ Redick. Yet that narrative masked the intense mentorship LeBron provided personally, one-on-one and face-to-face, right where the lenses were forced to capture it. He's truly forging his own path, clearly distinguishing himself from his father, just as I am my own person. Dealing with that level of intense public pressure would be impossible for me, especially at 18 while navigating the chaotic world of digital fame. Since those online platforms didn't exist when I turned 18, I faced massive expectations and carried a heavy burden for sure. James recognized the immense pressure his boy was enduring, having survived similar trials at 18 without the shadow of a legendary father. He remembered entering the professional ranks with a bullseye on his back, watching every minor slip-up get blown out of proportion, while critics eagerly waited for him to fail and prove their doubts right. He survived that storm without the relentless digital noise that follows Bronny constantly. JJ Redick pinpointed 3 vital growth sectors for the young guard this year: elite fitness, clutch mental toughness, and court vision. Stamina, according to Redick, served as the ultimate gatekeeper, the essential baseline needed before any other skill could be properly judged, particularly after his health scare at USC and the long road to recovery. As late 2025 approached, Redick noted that the rookie's passing had spiked significantly. The farm system was paying off. Video reviews between the staff and the player were surgically precise, highlighting instances where he chose aggression over doubt, instances where he executed the perfect play during crunch time, proving his training was translating to the court. We take immense pride in our children, especially him as the firstborn. From day one, we made it clear he had to be the standard bearer for his younger brother and sister. And honestly, he stayed committed to that responsibility ever since. For LeBron, this wasn't just about Bronny making it into the professional league. It was about his role as a firstborn son, a young man whose every action serves as a blueprint for those following in his footsteps. The gravity of the King's influence on the team, its leadership, and the high price of that power. That intense hallway exchange between father and son didn't just happen out of nowhere. It was the byproduct of an organization that has been fundamentally transformed through both quiet whispers and loud shifts by his massive presence since 2018. To truly grasp the weight of that specific moment, one must look at how his looming stature has impacted every coaching group trying to lead in his orbit. During his time in Los Angeles, he has played under 4 different head coaches, starting with Luke Walton, then Vogelham, and now Redick, all while the coach killer reputation followed him like a shadow. This narrative isn't actually built on him demanding people get fired in public. Instead, it comes from a recurring trend, where coaching tenures end abruptly when they can't meet the massive title expectations his very name brings. Supporters often point out that legends like Jordan and Kobe had similar dynamics without facing the same level of criticism. Detractors argue that his reach through clutch sports, his power in the market, and his deep media ties make his brand of influence something entirely different. Steven broke down the impact on the younger James before a dose of reality hit home. We're all fans of what he's doing in the developmental league right now, because that's exactly where you need to be to refine your craft and grow. Stephen A. Smith's point on First Take regarding visibility and protection was essentially highlighting the same issue from a fresh perspective. The question of how his proximity affects those around him, whether it's his coaches or his own flesh and blood, is the central theme of this entire saga. Walton's exit in 2019 followed a missed postseason with rumors that LeBron's camp wanted a more experienced voice. The promising young talents Walton was nurturing, like Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram, were mostly shipped out that following summer to bring in Anthony Davis. Vogel delivered a championship in the 2020 bubble, yet was let go in 2022 after the roster tanked following the Westbrook trade, a move LeBron reportedly supported. Ham took a 7 seed to the conference finals in 2023, winning respect for making that squad fight for every win, only to be dismissed in 2024 after a short first-round run against the Nuggets. Reporters like Dave McMenamin noted that letting Ham go wasn't necessarily a LeBron-driven move. The front office took ownership of the choice, yet the rumors persisted as they always do when James is involved. The decision to hire JJ Redick immediately brought the whole argument back to the surface. As LeBron's partner on the Mind the Game podcast, Redick's arrival was instantly framed as a buddy hire designed to keep the superstar satisfied. LeBron shot back at these claims, stating he never even spoke to the team about the hire. The front office alone pulled the trigger on that call. Per Shams Charania, King James stayed completely hands-off during the hunt for a new coach. The brass followed their own playbook and specific standards, picking JJ for their own motives, though the public narrative was already locked in. In a league where what people think dictates reality, that kind of optics matters. Come January 2026, with the Lakers struggling and the defense cratering ever since LeBron returned from injury, whispers began to swirl that Redick's chair was getting awfully warm. Between social media critics and Gilbert Arenas, the consensus was clear: Redick was in trouble. Redick doubled down, constantly shielding LeBron from the media firestorm. During a media scrum in January 2026, he blasted the critics, calling attacks on LeBron's hustle unfair considering his dedication. But the stats didn't lie, and they told a brutal story. From late November through January, the defensive rating spiked by roughly 4.4 points per 100 possessions compared to the season start. With LeBron on the floor in specific lineups, the net rating hovered at 5.6. Offensively, they were still world-class whenever he was active. His vision and ability to get buckets stayed at a peak no 41-year-old in basketball history had ever reached before. Yet the defensive slide was bleeding points, turning potential wins into crushing losses. Now let's pivot back to Bronny James. Look, I hope the kid makes it as a pro in the league one day. I'm his biggest fan, honestly, but the reality is he just isn't there yet. Smith was targeting Bronny specifically, yet that same logic applied to the entire Lakers situation. Whether the timing was off or the preparation was lacking, or if the spotlight was actually damaging the person just to sell a narrative. This dilemma defined LeBron's final years just as much as it did Bronny's debut. Appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoyed this, keep the vibe going by hitting one of those clips popping up on your screen for even more high-octane breakdowns.